In this video, we will see how to conduct a chi-square test on Excel. This is a survey that is taken to understand the gender and vehicle preference for a particular car manufacturer. The data is collected from 200 respondents. There are two questions in this survey. First one is the gender of the respondent, and the second one is the vehicle preference between three different types of vehicles, such as SUV, hatchback, and sedan. The objective of the survey is to understand the association between gender and the preference of vehicles. So we create a hypothesis statement stating that there is an association between gender and vehicle preference. So we also create a null and alternate hypothesis. So the null hypothesis will say that there is no association between gender and vehicle preference. And the alternate hypothesis will say that there is an association between gender and vehicle preference. Since gender and preference are discrete variables, we will need to use a chi-square test to see if there is an association between both of them. Chi-square test is primarily used to examine whether two categorical variables are independent in influencing the test statistics. So the first step is to create a contingency table so that for that we need to create a pivot table, and this will give the actual values. So first we will go ahead and create a pivot table using the gender and vehicle preference that we have. So we select the data under gender and vehicle preference, then we go to insert and click on pivot table so that it will give us an option to create the pivot table. So we will use the same existing worksheet where we can create the pivot table. So we will choose this row to create the pivot table. And we have these two variables. So we will select gender and vehicle preference. So we will put this in column, and then we can select any of this. So we'll select gender. So it will give the count uh, of the actual values. That is how many females have selected hatchback and how many females have selected sedan. So we will get this actual data, actual values. And the next step is we need to find the expected values. So for that, what we will do is like, we will go ahead and copy these values. We'll copy these values and paste it down here itself. And we will delete the original values, what is here. So the expected values, what we need to do is like, we need to use the formula raw total into column total divided by grand total. So for that, what we will do is like, you will take the raw total into column total divided by grand total. So we need to do this, repeat the same procedure for all the values here. So we will do it for the SUV for female. So we have the values for female. So the same thing we have to repeat it for male as well. So we have to use the raw total for male and the column total divided by the grand total. So for the sedan also we have to do the same. And for SUV also we have to use the same formula. So once it is done, and if you calculate, you will get the total sum as 200. So the next step, what we need to do is we need to find the p-value associated with the chi-square test. By this, we will determine whether to accept the null hypothesis or the alternate hypothesis. So here we assume an alpha value of 0.05 on a 95% confidence interval. So we need to find the p-value. So if the p-value is greater than 0.05, we accept the null hypothesis, and if the p-value is less than 0.05, we accept the alternate hypothesis. So to find the p-value, we need to use the formula chi-square test. Then we need to give the actual range, that is these values, give the comma, and give the expected values. So here we can see that the p-value that we have received is 0.003, which means we reject null hypothesis and we accept the alternate hypothesis. So even if you see on the actual values that we have received 16 as the actual value for female who is preferring hatchback, and the expected value is 26. So there we can see that there is a clear indications that females do not prefer hatchback, and you can see the same thing that you can see in other values also. So there you can see there is a clear indications that there is an association between gender and vehicle preference. So we can conclude that each gender prefer have a preference for the vehicles. So that conclude the chi-square test. Thank you for watching the video. Have a great day.